Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of The Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers, and Amelia Pisano. We are broadcasting live here via the International Public Radio on United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM in the beautiful city of New Orleans. So, tonight, another treat. We welcome back Marilynn Hughes to the show. She was so much fun the last time. We're going to be discussing near-death experience, out-of-body experience, astral projection, as well as catching us up on her new books and films and events that she's got going on. So really excited about that. She's really an awesome individual. Honestly, you guys will love her if you haven't caught her on the last show. Anyway, in order to participate in the show, you need to pop on over to YouTube, to the UFO Paranormal Radio and International Public Radio pages. Subscribe, please, and watch for us also on Twitch and on Twitter, and I think all of the networks' Facebook pages. So there's going to be roughly 8 different video platforms you can catch us on. However, we'll see your comments, but we will not be able to comment on anything unless it's in YouTube on UFO Paranormal. You will have to tag Amelia if you want her to respond to you, but otherwise be patient, settle yourselves in, and just get ready for a really awesome segment. So, Bubbles, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm going all right. Just getting organized. Let's see if the internet kicks me off again. Brand new modem. It's like, oh, this is really quick. Oh, we go.
Yep, quick on, quick off.
I know. It's quick, all right.
It's like, what was that movie, Karate Kid?
It's awesome. Yeah. Now you see her. Now you don't. Gone.
I still say blame Joe.
It's like having an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, just a little bit. Oh my
Right
God. I
off the
feel
screen.
like I'm
There we
having one this week because things are finally starting to open up a little bit. So
Hey, this is good.
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Me too.
We'll see, though. I like it, but I don't, because being in a touristy place, unfortunately, everybody flocks here, which is great. I love to see people getting out and stuff.
That's
but
right. You're in Niagara.
unfortunately, that 10-minute ride to the around the corner is going to take me like half an hour because tourists are so laid back and they don't never know where they're going, and you're just like, please.
It's the same downtown Toronto, really.
It is, but that's all the time in Toronto.
Yeah, I'm not so opposed to, they were talking about limiting the city center access to public transit only. And at first I was like, are you insane? Have you ever gone to the theater down there on a regular night? But then I thought, wow, with the new transits they're putting in from one city to the next, and how you could just come right up right there. As much as I'm going to tell you, I loathe public transit. Anyone who knows me knows I can't stand it. Haven't been on a bus since I was 18. I'm really bad that way.
I think it was even older than that for me.
It grosses me
Unless
out.
I was abroad, because I'll take public.
Yeah.
I do take public transit when I was in Scotland.
Well, that's so different when you're traveling. It's a different story.
Different.
But when you're in your own city, it's like
it's different. Yeah,
and every block is a bus stop in Toronto, so it takes forever, right? So it just, anyways. Yeah, I'm not so opposed to it now. After this has been going on, I think it'll be good to keep the city center clear of that and have people be able to just walk, kind of like Times Square,
Well, it'd be kind of nice, yeah.
They're still driving there, but it's not as much. But
it's just brutal.
I laugh when I went to New York. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, have you ever seen roads like this?" Yeah.
Pretty sure
not that different. Not that different in Toronto. Sorry.
Oh my God! Try Paris, people. Okay, they're maniacs in Paris too,
and
they have gas. They have gas bars like almost on the sidewalk. And you're just trotting along in the tourist section. All of a sudden, a car comes, almost takes you off the sidewalk, gets in there, just like.
That can happen to you in Canada with any Tim Hortons coffee coming up, because people I've been cut off by many people who just noticed a coffee shop and just almost cut me off. You notice that Starbucks people are a little bit calmer, just saying. We know where we're going. We know it's going to be a wait when we're in there, so it's a little different.
So there we go. 2 free plugs.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah. It's Canada Day tomorrow.
Okay. It's Canada Day. We're going to cut you a break. Anyway, we're going to bring on Marilynn Hughes. I'm really excited to have her
Yes.
back. You're going to read the bio for those who
I'm
missed it
going
the
to
first
read
time.
a
Part
brief
of the
one
bio
because
because it's like huge.
yes, which just means she's just even more amazing. Marilynn Hughes actually, if you don't know this about her, founded the Out of Body Travel Foundation in 2003. And the mission reduced spiritual and physical hunger worldwide. Marilynn has also written 101 books. I'm sure it's plus that now. 40 magazines and 18 CDs on out-of-body travel and comparative religious mysticism. These books, along with accompanying music and art, are all available for free download. And Marilynn has experienced, research, written, and taught about OBE, or out-of-body travel, actually, and mysticism since 1987. I have a crack in my screen, and has appeared in innumerable radio and television programs to discuss her thousands of out-of-body experiences. And she explains it in such an amazing way. It's just so, it's different. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about the NDEs, the near-death experiences, having experienced a few too many myself. just a few too many, just a few.
I know.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing her again. I just loved her. Just loved her.
Well, whenever Joe is ready to bring her out of the green room, we'll welcome.
Hope she's got
There
snacks.
she is.
Hi, how are you? Did they give you
you?
snacks in that green room?
There we go.
It was
Yeah.
great back there. I mean,
Yeah,
We're
we're nothing like Hollywood. We got so much
I
on
know,
that.
right? That's funny how they call it a green room. Meanwhile, you're like, whatever.
Yeah. It's a green screen. That's about it. Not even. I think it's blue. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys? Great
Doing
to see you
good.
again.
You look amazing.
Oh, thank you. So do you both.
It's a little warm. We got this heat wave going on with.
I know you guys have been getting hit with some real heat up there.
Yeah, it's starting to feel a little bit like New Orleans up here.
I know.
The humidity is killer, though. It's so thick. It reminds me of Florida. You know,
like rain already. For crap's sakes, we're dying.
Oh, it's been raining
Break
for
the
days.
humidity. I know.
Yeah, and it's humid in the house, regardless of how high your air is. You're just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I don't like it. I love
Not
Florida,
our
but around Orlando,
we're Canadians, okay?
Yeah,
we're supposed to like Canada geese and igloos.
You're supposed to be able to be cold sometimes.
Yeah, not in Southern Ontario.
I'm not going to gripe too much because, the snow will come and everybody will be belly aching. I'll be like, oh, was that guy?
I don't believe.
So I'm not going to do that.
Like winter.
No, I'm all right.
I like having 4 seasons. It just feels right.
Yeah.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that.
4 seasons because I was in Colorado for 25 years and now I'm in
4 seasons in Colorado, Marilynn. You have 2. You have summer and winter. I have friends in Colorado.
That's true. But now I'm in Arizona. So now we have 1 season.
Yes.
All the time. Wow.
Isn't it lovely though? Do you really like connect with everything there, with the energy? And is it really like that? I've never been.
It's very nice here. It's very hot right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it's very nice. There's a lot of spiritual people in Phoenix, Arizona, and it is a very unique environment, with the desert and everything. So yeah, there is. It is. During the summer, it's a little rough because we do get really hot here. So,
but you don't have the humidity, right? So if you can dress for it.
Yeah, but that 110 degrees feels like you can fry an egg on your face. Thought. Yeah.
Well,
it's like Vegas, right?
You actually can fry eggs on yourself. And, you put oven mitts in your car and you,
my God. Right?
Last week, I think we had 122 one day.
Oh, it is like Vegas. It's a lot like Vegas.
Harsh,
yeah. Well, desert,
Yeah. So humidity does change it a little, but heat is heat. So, when it's really hot, it's just really hot. The sun is really intense in the desert, So
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is.
I've been to Vegas in like June, so I understand.
I've been to Egypt, and let me tell you,
Oh, that's
I thought it
hot.
was really cool suntanning up on the pyramids, and then I was just sort of like, you know what? It's pretty
maybe
freaking
not.
hot
Yeah,
up
I mean,
here.
it's probably
It's like-
similar to Vegas and probably similar to Egypt. I've never been to either, but we're pretty
Yeah.
close to Vegas and Nevada, so it's probably
Yeah.
similar.
I would imagine your temperatures are very, very much the same.
But I've heard it's just
different times of
the
day.
humidity is the worst, and I just found, and I mean, I've never been to Vegas, so I don't know, but I know like in Egypt, I know why they all nap. Everybody naps in Greece and Egypt and the islands.
Italy
It's like
too.
they shut down from like 2 to 5, and you're like, why?
My God, Italy, they shut down from noon to 7, just saying. Or
Yeah,
noon
see,
to
it's
5.
just crazy.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very
Is
hot.
it because the heat
It's
takes it out of
dry.
them?
Yeah. It's too
Okay.
hot. It's dry. The villages are antique. They're ancient. So you don't
Yeah.
have air conditioning and everything, right?
That's
There's the
true.
air conditioning with a store and then the
I know, 'cause
electricity
I live in
Italy.
one of those houses.
Yeah, she lives in one of those houses. I don't. I have air
That's
on and a fan and humidity. Let me tell
That's
you,
true.
you don't know what it took me to get my hair this straight today. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
It doesn't seem to matter. This house has walls that are 3 feet thick, and you would think that it would just, it
Yeah, you would
does
think like
keep
a
it
cellar,
cool
but
to a degree, but yeah, we gotta go hang on the cellar.
Really?
The ghosts say.
but I'm saying it's
Move
like a
over.
cellar when the walls are that thick. That's what I meant. It's like a cellar.
sure.
Yeah,
Pump
I'm not
out of the
saying
way.
cellar's not a bad place to hang out at if there's wine. Just saying, you know.
This is true. Maybe I just need to take a different approach. That's what
Have
it
you
is.
seen an Italian cantina? Have you seen what's in an Italian cantina?
I
Oh my
like
God,
it.
there's food.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
food and wine next to the laundry detergent. Seriously, like it's crazy.
That could work. That could
That
work.
could work.
So tell us what you have been up to, because it's been a few months. So catch us up.
Oh, well,
Where do you want to start? It's all fun and exciting.
Yeah, we've, a couple of books we've released, a couple of new books, The Lord of the Redemption,
Nice.
Hermetic Archtronics, The Saviors, and the Tachyon Teachings in
Wow.
out-of-body travel.
Wow.
And also we released, I will grab this one, a sequel to Dialogues with the Mystic 2. So that was
Nice.
also released. And
That's a big book.
Yeah, we released a few films. So we released a 2-part documentary called At the Feet of the Masters, as well as How to Have an Out-of-Body Experience, and also The Stairway from Earth to Heaven. So we've been busy, and we have quite a few little projects in the can. So
Wow.
coming soon, the Tao of Mysticism documentary, as well as the Rites of Passage coming soon. And,
that sounds like it would be fun.
Oh yeah,
The Rites of Passage. That's
yes.
Can you give us a little bit on it?
Oh yeah. So we released a film called Initiations into the Mysteries back in December, and this will be the sequel to that. And the Rites of Passage goes into a lot of the things that I wrote about in a book called The Fragrance of the Mystical Rose, which are the deeper mysteries of, the ascent of the soul to the celestial garden of God. And so this
celestial garden, no less. I like that.
Oh, yes. And the enclosed celestial garden of God, the enclosed place where the heart pitter patters to find their beloved, And so this is going to be a really good film. And in fact, we're planning as well. There will be 2 parts to that one as well. And the producer, Brian Malum from Mysteries Productions, will also be doing part 2 to Initiations into the Mysteries will be coming out as well. So quite a bit in the works, as well as what we've also just got out. We also have put out some in-depth courses that are now available on Udemy. So we have these subjects, and others are covered in, deep, in-depth modules that you can, if you want to go even deeper into the classroom format. on these
Wow.
subjects. So,
Well, you have
yeah.
been busy.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Um,
exciting.
I think people are curious. Can you explain the difference, just for anybody who didn't catch the show? Maybe you could sort of back us up as to
Sure.
how your journey began with this, and maybe explain the differences between an out of body experience and an NDE.
Oh,
Because one I
sure.
think you can train to do, and the other one's sort of like
Just
Yeah.
takes you
So,
off guard.
being an unwilling participant.
sure.
Shall we
I'll
say?
explain that first and then I'll go back. Yeah. So,
Okay.
out of body travel there's this great similarity between the two. Near death experiences occur when people are close to death. And so, or sometimes when people are dead, you know what I mean? So, when people are actually clinically dead. And some people will have near death experiences when they're close to death, or out of body experiences when they're close to death. But people have experienced out of body travel from time immemorial when they're not close to death. And so this is what we find in the great tradition of the mystics in all world religions throughout time and throughout history and throughout the ages and throughout every culture in the world, of the ability to actually have experiences that are not exactly the same as a near-death experience, but there's a great bunch of similarities, So there are differences because of the nature of the moment. So when someone is at the moment of death, there are certain defining moments because someone is at the moment of death. They may be crossing over. They are often discerning whether they're going to stay or go. And so it is a different kind of moment. So you'll see in the annals of near-death literature, there's a great deal of similarity in those experiences. Dr. Raymond Moody did a lot of work to quantify and show all the different things that we see in those experiences. But we find that when people actually discipline and cultivate and train themselves to experience out-of-body travel, they will go through many of these things in out-of-body experiences as well, maybe not all in one experience, maybe in a series of experiences, but there are many other aspects that they will also go through, because you enter into what I call the purification journey as well, which is very much akin to the reason why we're here, why we incarnate here on earth, is this purification of the soul. And so when we recognize and enter into this thrust, where we recognize that we have to undergo purification of our karmic elements, of our virtues and vices, of the things that we understand, the things we misunderstand, misperceive, those things that we do understand, the things that we understand only imperfectly. Then we begin this acceleration that completely transforms and alters our journey here, and can literally it can change it can change the nature of where we're going and how fast we're going to get there, by literally by eons and by because what you're doing is, it's like if you have a child and they don't understand that they have to go to kindergarten, and then they have to go through school, and they have to go and sometime get through 12th grade, and they have to graduate from high school. They don't know that. So they never enter into kindergarten, let's say. But if at some point they realize that, oh, this is what I need to do in order to begin the journey, the physical, earthly, educational journey. And all of a sudden, you have this scattered little child, and all of a sudden, You see?
I like her sound effects. I'm not the only one.
I like
Just
that.
saying.
I thought we were going to do charades there for a minute when the hands
Yeah,
were
but
going.
I'm like, so I do that all the time. So I'm getting you good here. It's okay. Love it.
So the same thing happens spiritually is
Right.
that, many of us, we kind of like wander around kind of aimlessly spiritually until we have this moment where we recognize, oh, we are here for this purification journey. And it's like all of a sudden you engage like you're on a jet, and you engage the jet and you're engaging it into overdrive, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, and all of a sudden, so all
That
of a
would almost
sudden
seem really shocking.
it is. And it's very shocking, but it completely changes the trajectory of your path. And that's the thing that I think people probably don't realize, how dramatic it can become, because it very much changes that trajectory. So I'll just use another analogy. I'll try to, which is, so let's say if you're going through life and let's say you're riding a bike.
Right.
Okay. But let's say, and when riding the bike, you're just kind of doing the mass retain. You're just kind of following the grounded rules of existence, and you're just not that aware of what's going on spiritually. But then all of a sudden, awakening happens. That might be comparable when that change occurs, when you hit that, going into the purification journey. So all of a sudden, now you're flying an F-16. So you're not riding your little tricycle,
No, yeah,
all of a
they're
sudden
really
you
booking
are,
it now. Yeah.
so
You passed
So-
Air Force One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. This is
it
good.
completely
This is good.
changes and alters what's possible for your soul.
Right.
You see, and this is what it's hard to get it across to people, how catastrophically mind and life altering engaging into the true spiritual path can become for them.
Right. So, I mean, if somebody wants to think about having an out of body experience, I mean, some people will go get ayahuasca. Some people, I mean, DMT.
God.
Oh, seriously,
I have no
DMT is a big
comment on
thing.
that.
Like, what are you going to do with people? This is like a movement now, though, like
Yeah.
psychedelics
Ayahuasca
and
thing, yeah.
DMT. And somebody asked me once, "You want to try DMT?" I'm like, "What's that?" It's so greening. What is that? Oh, well, this is this and this and this. You should try it. I'm like, no, how does it make you feel? Yeah, I'm all for like, ooh, like trying to connect with, but properly.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, you feel like you have no control at first. Oh, so I'm stoned is what you're saying. No, I think I'm all right. I think I could do
pretty
without
much.
that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, no, I don't like that feeling of not being in control. So without shortcuts, if someone is thinking of having an OBE, what can they expect and how should they do it?
Well, I'm really happy that now we were able to release the documentary film on how to have an out-of-body experience, because it's really easy, because people would just go to the website at outofbodytravel.org and flip over to our YouTube channel and watch the film, because it's going to lay it out for you, for one.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's right there.
I'm leaving
you.
now. No, I'm kidding.
Like literally, or just
like
out of
literally, I'm
body?
going to open another tab.
God.
No, I'm excited.
The thing about this is, and and I have several books as well that you can use alongside that film: Come to Wisdom's Door, The Mysteries of the Redemption, and Astral Projection Made Easy. But the thing about this is that there is a way to do this very naturally. And it's always better to cultivate the path naturally. And the reason why is because it's a natural gift. It's not this is not something that we are actually ironically learning to do. And let me explain that, okay? Because a lot of people think, how do I learn how to do this? And it's like, well, let me give you a new perspective on this, because everyone does this already.
Okay, now we're all going to panic. Okay.
No reason to panic. No reason to panic. So what we all forget is that at night when we're sleeping, the angels are working on our souls at night. This type of activity is already in play. We're just not consciously aware of it. So what we are learning to do is to become conscious of it. So it's a different process than people think. We're not learning to do something new. We're learning to become conscious of something that's already in play. And so one of the things, ironically, the next book that I will be working on outlining to adapt for film is called The Primordial Seed. And this book talks about the circular movement of the prayers of the angels from heaven to earth, and how if we want to experience out-of-body travel, we have to learn to enter into that continual prayer of the hours that the angels do naturally. And I won't go into a whole bunch of detail because that'll get us off course here for right now. But
that's okay. Right.
But the reason why this is important is because that's what we're doing. There is a cycle that occurs day and night within the human body, mind, and spirit. And the angels and the celestial hierarchies are already working on our souls at night. So what we are learning to do is to quiet ourselves and to become much more aware of our consciousness and to become able to receive. And there's a lot of steps to this that is outlined in the film and outlined in those books. But what we're doing is recognizing that we're stepping into the movement that already exists for us, but we're stepping into it consciously so that we can participate in it more consciously. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I was going to say, if somebody's really fearful, because some people are really, you don't know what to expect. Essentially, there's a lot out there where, misinformation, where it's like, oh no, you can get your astral cord cut. Don't be careful, lower lying entities. And so once you are able to establish that, okay, I can leave, I know how to leave, what can people expect? Is there precautions that they should take? Is there, know.
Yeah.
She does. That's why she's got 110 books.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of precautions. And, a lot of it is prayer. And, ironically, one thing I'd like to preface this with is that a lot of people don't realize that I didn't start out Catholic, and the reason why that's important is because this is something people don't realize is, I had the experiences that led me to become Catholic. I began, 30 something years ago, wondering, well, what is the right path to follow? What I found in my mystical experiences and in my out-of-body travels was that when I was taken into spiritual warfare, working with ghosts and lost souls, what I discovered very quickly was there were very simple formulas. And they were things like the Our Father, the Hail Mary, the Apostles' Creed, things I didn't know what they were because I wasn't Catholic. You know what I mean? But these were prayers that were very, very powerful against dark forces, against anything demonic or dark. And, these are the prayers that I would just naturally have fed to me by the Holy Spirit to assist these souls in the out-of-body travel states. And then I would continue to learn and be trained. And so first of all, you start with prayer. You have sacramentals around. So, crucifixes, things like this, holy water, holy salt, holy oils. Excellent.
You can see they're all behind
I
me.
can
Exorcism
see.
box. Yeah.
Loving it. Loving it.
Have a sword.
And you know, one of
Michelle's
the
got the
things,
holy swords.
With the
Yes.
sword.
oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, the thing that I think is important for people to know about this is, you know, because everyone always just assumes, oh, this is coming from your own programming. It's like, no. I was not raised a Catholic. I was raised Mormon, actually.
Oh
So I
my
actually had,
gosh. Are you serious?
That's a big difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
quite the
Grand
jump.
Canyon leaps. Yeah.
uh-huh. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually had kind of an anti-Catholic bias. And so when I was experiencing these things, I kind of was like, what? You know, this is kind of like not what I was expecting. And then, you know, one thing else that just I'll add to that is that then I started meeting other people. And I started meeting people, ironically, who were close to death, people who were nearing death, who were struggling with the same questions. Like they weren't sure, like maybe they had been Lutheran their whole life. And I'll tell you a story about someone I knew who had been Lutheran his whole life. His father was a Lutheran pastor. And he actually spent most of his life making fun of me because I was kind of a Catholic, kind of mystic. Not, you know, I wouldn't call myself a Catholic mystic because I'm a little bit too out there. I want to be fair here, you know, because, but he would make fun of me a little bit in a very lighthearted, you know, not in a bad way. Right. And then when he was closing in on death, he came up to me one day and was very serious. And he said, Marilynn, I have to talk to you. And I was like, okay, what? And he said, I had a near-death experience. And he was really, really, really moved by this experience. And he had been taken towards the tunnel with the light. And he said, I saw all of these traditional Catholic things. He said there were the Catholic sacramentals, the prayers, all these things. They were the traditional Catholic things. And it was the traditional Catholic priests, the traditional Catholic, all these things. And he said, I'm just completely blown away by it. And I have to become Catholic. He became Catholic and he was buried in a Catholic funeral. And he was completely converted by that experience before his death. And I've heard this from others who have had experiences where and of course, other people who have had out-of-body travels, mystical experiences where they were not necessarily Catholic, but they go in and they're doing spiritual warfare. And what's happening? They're reciting the Apostles' Creed or the Hail Mary. You know, they might be Buddhist and they're doing spiritual warfare with these things, the Lord's Prayer. And so what I'm trying to say is, for those who might say, oh, this is just your own programming, I'm telling you that this is happening. No, it wasn't my programming. And there are a lot of people who it wasn't their programming either. So yes, that might be the case for some where maybe they were Catholic before this happened, but there are a lot of people where that wasn't the case. And so in my case, I became Catholic as a result of the experiences that I had that led me in that direction. And so that's an important understanding of the order of how things occurred rather than,
That's very interesting because you don't usually hear that, you know, and we always say prayer is power of words and intention.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that because I was raised Roman Catholic and I've had NDEs and my experiences have been completely different than anyone's I hear. Yeah, mine are really different. It's funny how the first time you're just like so in awe. The second time it's like, okay, this is looking familiar. The third time you're like, okay, when is it going to stop? Pick a door, you know. But
Can I phone a friend?
Right? Can I call Michelle? Can I call Michelle? She'll reel me back in because I'm squirreling even on the other side. But no, it's just interesting. I really want to read your book because of that. I want to read about other people's experiences. When you've experienced it, you're so curious to know what other people, have gone through. And like anybody, is that real? I mean, yeah, I talk to dead people. I do different things, but that was completely bizarre to me. Like, it's just so surreal and so beautiful. I'm not saying it wasn't. It was very beautiful, but I didn't see any of that. I did have a connection with my mom who passed away in the last one because she actually sent me back.
Good for her.
So,
she knew you had stuff to do.
That's what moms do.
Yeah, send you back.
Listening. Still not listening.
No, exactly. But yeah, if it ever happens again, Michelle, I'm calling. I'm just saying. But
I'm gonna phone a friend.
The funny thing is, every time it's happened, I've been in a hospital. That's the funny part. I've been surrounded by doctors and nurses every time it's happened.
Yeah.
So I really want to learn about was that common to hear that they had these experiences in a Catholic way or in a prayer way? Did they experience a lot of dark forces on that side? Because I didn't. So,
well, it's interesting because I was always very interested in that because for the same reasons, So I've studied a lot of different people's experiences, and from what I understood, I did some research on like people who had near-death experiences of heaven and hell. And there was a particular cardiologist, I think his name was Dr. Maurice Rawlings, who did research into this because he was a cardiologist and he, resuscitated a lot of people. And what he had said was that in his experience, that he had about 50-50, that about half had negative experiences and the other half had positive experiences.
Right.
And then when you read about the people who, had the negative experiences, what seems to be a clear message throughout those is that the moment people call out for help or pray, that Christ or another assistance of some kind, an angelic assistance, arrives almost instantaneously. And I know that in my own experiences in the out-of-body travel state, in terms of when I'm working with souls, what I have definitely seen as well is that the moment a soul sends out a call for help, it's instant. That help is sent. And so I find that very fascinating. I think it shows a side of God and his mercy that is really fascinating and beautiful, and also reminiscent.
Especially if you're not following, I mean, what would an atheist do?
Well, yeah. And, it's interesting too, because the near-death experiences of atheists are very varied and very wide, So I think that goes to show us as well that only God knows the heart of a soul, because I've heard beautiful experiences from people who are atheists. I've also, I've helped a lot of souls who cross over with their afterlife experiences, and I've seen entirely different journeys. And so I believe that what that tells us is that, God understands what the underlying elements are, and he understands the heart of every soul. And so I don't think anything like that is cut and dry. I think it's a much bigger question. And so, you know what I mean?
You need to get through all your films, I think, and your books to get a full understanding of it. But that is something that can be taught, which is pretty cool. So why don't we jump over to your books? Let's talk about the Lord of Redemption. Now, this is the fifth one in the series, fourth one?
Third one in the Redemption series. Yes.
Okay.
This series is fun. So this one is the third. And so the first two is the Limb of the Redemption, and the second one is the Christ of the Redemption. And the Limb of the Redemption focused a lot on the afterlife journeys. The Christ of the Redemption went through a lot of spiritual warfare and going beyond into what I call the Pure Lands. And then the Lord of the Redemption goes into what I call the Tachyon teachings. And the Lord of the Redemption is very special to me. It's one of the things that's different about this particular set of books from my other sets of books is, you know, I've written a lot of books, and this set of books is kind of going into a different kind of energy for sure. And what the Lord of the Redemption does is we're now kind of going into a different sphere of experience, which is very cool, you know. Speaking of, you know, the one of the films that we released was the two-part documentary on At the Feet of the Masters, which is about talking about the great masters of all time, you know, who've left behind in their words in the writings of the ancient sacred texts, and how that relates to the Lord of the Redemption is that, you know, when these great masters have left behind those words, you know, all of our films and all of my books also lead to this point, because one of the great things in my work that I feel like all the prophets, saints, mystics, and sages have kind of led me to focus on in a lot of my work is this point, which is the gold, as I call it, which is the ancient sacred texts. And the ancient sacred texts were left behind by all those great souls who came here and figured it out before us, who came here and completed what it is we are all here to complete. And so these are the souls who came here, left behind in these extant, sometimes forgotten texts, the final words that they left behind before they were going to ascend this realm and go to the next level. And what is that next level, right? What is the next level?
I'm hoping you know.
in the Lord of the Redemption, we find out.
There we go. So you do know. All right. Perfect.
So this is where we finally get to go to that place where the great masters go when they leave this world, having transcended all the work that we are supposed to complete in order to graduate this realm. That purification journey, that purification, discrimination, and discipline pathway that we are here to complete. And that is the tachyon field. And I have to pause because it is a place of great holiness and silence that I just have to pause for. And this is the tachyon field, which is, the tachyons are particles that vibrate beyond the speed of light. But the tachyon field is this beautiful world of pure adoration of God. And when you enter into it, it is a place of infinite vibration, wherein these masters, these mystics, these prophets, these saints have left those final words of gold. And they are gold. Why? Because those golden words contain within them that secret, those secrets that we need in order to follow them in their footsteps to where they lead. And where they go is this great, beautiful, peaceful place, this space where only adoration remains. And when you are there, there just aren't any words for it.
Right.
And once you've been there, you never want to leave, and you never want to you never want to return to a simple physical existence and forget what is possible for us.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost like just shedding your skin and going back to pure energy.
It is, and it is that and much more, because
Right.
we are
It's like
moving
purity.
into these places. Yes, it is, and we're moving into these places where we are going to lose the ability to explain them in words, because they are pure vibration. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's difficult. You're very passionate about it. I can tell that. It's just, it moves you.
oh yes, and yes, it's just
I have goosebumps. Yeah.
No, well, I think it's terrific. So this is basically what you are trying to teach. So what's involved in teaching something like this? Because it seems like it's hard to even muster up the words to even describe this place. So how would you teach about this? Like, this sounds like it's something old, sacred, taboo in some circles even.
well, I wouldn't call it taboo, but I would definitely say it's definitely something old, something, and one of the things about out of body travel is I try to tell people we're never teaching anything. We're not teaching anything new. It's been
Right.
around from the beginning of time,
Right.
but we're trying to help people to recapture something that's been lost. And,
Right.
another one of the things that you're going to find in the Lord of the Redemption is the path to get there.
Right.
And you're going to find it in the ancient sacred texts, because there is this hidden little pathway that the Lord takes me through these monasteries in the stars, where he shows me these secret little texts that show me the secrets of salvation as shown through some extant texts, and how many of these things have been lost and forgotten, but they're not gone. They've just been forgotten.
It's so sad when you think about it, because the ancients were very much in touch with themselves and being able to, to do this. It's almost like it's a lost art.
Well, one of the things that we have done in our modern society that I'm really trying to re-tap back into now, because I'm working on the fourth book in the series.
Of course you are.
This one is, believe it or not, the aliens of the redemption.
Oh, I like it.
And ironically, I've had the really cool honor of meeting Nefertiti, who has taken me back into ancient Egypt and shown me some of the lost texts from her time, which she tells me that there were things that were lost to our history. And so she's showing me some really neat things that were very, very holy that have been lost. And so we're working on this one. But what we have lost here in our modern world is that we are so all, connected to electronics and devices and things like this. We forget, let's just take a moment to, I'm going to transplant you all to just another moment in time. Let's just go back to, I'm just going to take you to the 1200s for a moment.
I like the 1200s.
Let's pretend. Yeah, let's pretend we are hanging out with Saint Hildegard along the Rhine in the monastery where Saint Hildegard would, in the silence of the night, listen to the sounds of the angels and literally bring in that heavenly liturgy that she composed. Because she didn't compose it, she heard it. Why did she hear it? She heard it because everything was quiet. She was able, in a sense, to bring the tachyon fields into her sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And she had the most stunning visions of the salvation of humankind and the mysteries of the redemption itself. You know, the visions that she had contained so much mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And for just a moment, the three, you and I, and all three of us, let's just imagine we're just nuns in her convent, you know, because there were maybe 20 or 30 nuns in her convent, and they were alone. And they were just them for maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the silence of the night. Imagine the silence and the birds that you would hear at night.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine the sound of the nuns singing those liturgies with the circular song of the angels from earth to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how it might have been easier for them to do this?
Definitely easier for them than it would be for people of modern time with all the technology
Right.
and the cell phone towers and the
Oh,
satellites and
yes.
interference of frequencies and vibrations.
And so you see how all we actually have to do is literally almost even just visualize ourselves back to this place. We don't have to actually recreate, you know, the Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
Even in our inner city apartment or wherever we might be, we can place ourselves in our medieval cell. And we can place ourselves in these places. We can place ourselves with the early desert fathers in a cave.
Mm-hmm.
We can place ourselves with the prophet Jeremiah in the middle of the desert, where we experience that aloneness with God, that silence,
Mm-hmm.
where we create our own private field.
Mm.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm kind of giving you is a little bit of different ideas that you can add to the things that I already have available in the film on how to have an out-of-body experience. But these are things that you can add to this.
So essentially, you just have to visualize where you want to be.
Well, that's
And
part of it, yes. And then
right.
there's many other steps, and these other steps will be laid out for you in the films, which I think, but what I'm trying to get people to take a look at is how can you bring the world of heaven closer to you? Bring it back into your reality, because we actually push heaven away from us, you see,
Mm-hmm.
with our noise. And so how do we bring it back?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Amelia, you had a question.
difficult.
I
You had a
do.
question from chat.
I do. Actually, I have a statement and a question from the same person, MJ, who's a guest. And thank you for sharing with us.
Right.
MJ wrote, as a product of the Catholic residential school system, I got ambivalent about anything Catholic, anything religious at a very young age. I will say, however, that St. Michael's Prayer is my comfort. I feel for you right now. Honestly, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
MJ asks, is there a link from sleep paralysis to flying dreams to OBEs? Are they different versions of the same thing?
Yes. And St. Michael's Prayer is also very powerful in the out-of-body travel state. And yes, ironically, I was discussing this with someone else recently, that sleep paralysis is really a part of the out-of-body travel disconnection process. And I think it's, for some reason, I think people have wanted to identify it as a medical separate condition. It's really just a state of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go into sleep paralysis, a lot of times you're either already in the vibrational state or really close to it. When you get into the vibrational state, you often will be in a state of sleep paralysis, and that's when you're ready to start with separating from your physical form.
Mm.
So the sleep paralysis is part of the separating from the physical body, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole series of stages that will go through, that I go through every one of them and explain that the sleep paralysis is right there in the vibrational state section. That's normal part of right when you're about to either roll out, will yourself out, or do it another way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's actually right there. And yes, lucid dreaming is usually something that occurs like usually a little bit before you're going to start having more conscious out-of-body experiences. It's something that comes before. All of these things are all part and parcel of that awakening process that's leading towards that fully conscious out-of-body experience. So yes, they are. And also, you're not alone in that. There's a lot of people who had bad experiences with the Catholic Church and with other churches and other religions. I've heard about it in a lot of different experiences, and that's not unusual at all. And you can find a way to separate the experiences that you've had that were negative from the actual truths that are essential for your journey. One of the things that I try to get people to understand is that people, just like everything else, people run churches. And, our Lord Jesus is not responsible for the mistakes of the fallible human beings that.
So essentially it's believe in the deity, or just not so much the fan club of the corporation,
sort of like
the
that.
establishment.
Well, there is value to the church and its hierarchies, and its existence is valuable and it has purpose. It's imperfect. You know what I mean? It's imperfect, just like every human being is imperfect. I wrote a book called Near-Death and Out-of-Body Experiences of the Prophets, Saints, Mystics, and Sages in World Religions. And part of the purpose of that book was to take people away from the religions and take them to the birth points of those religions, which was the revelations that brought them into being, which were out-of-body experiences for the most part, to help people to understand that these religions were born of out-of-body experiences, revelations, moments, these big blasts of energy that came to Earth. What happens is that those moments then are always taken by other people, and people try to codify them into structure. And the Holy Spirit can't be structured. It's just not completely possible. But there is purpose to these other things, like theology and things like this. There's purpose to it. They do get out of hand. You know what I mean? They do. So people have had, people have shared with me experiences they've had that are really bad. And obviously we all know historical things, and people have shared things that have happened to them that are inexcusable. So, and I've heard people tell me things that, stories that have happened to them where I don't see how they would ever be able to get past that, and that they would need to follow a different path in order, because it was too traumatic what happened to them. Right. You know what I mean? But go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, not that I'm defending the church or anything. It's just I've worked with a lot of missing children cases, and I've worked child sexual assault and all different horrific crimes on children. And I always say, and I'm not defending the church, because we have it in our school system, we have it in our coaches, we have it in our teachers of dance, of soccer, of whatever. Pedophiles and child molesters will find a way to get closer to the victim. It doesn't make them a teacher. It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. They find a way in. Not necessarily our there are some bad priests out there, but not most of the time. It's pedophilia and child molesters that are going in with the cloth because they can hide behind it, where then becomes the issue with the Vatican and why aren't they standing behind it? That's a whole other show. But I always say that. I just, wanted to make it clear, because
then you have to look at the actual numbers versus how many thousands and thousands of priests are very holy priests. And then, and we also
it's not
see,
in Boston.
Yeah,
which is not in Boston. In Boston, you can email me, but we've all seen the film on Spotlight, and that was horrific.
Yeah, it was.
But there's good and bad in everything, right? Evil finds its way everywhere.
Right.
Can I just read MJ's comment again? I can get past, because it pertains to your answer. I can get past the demonic part of the sleep paralysis and make myself calmer now. But now I will try to let myself truly go. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just clarify. So what he's saying is, sleep paralysis in and of itself is a normal part of the separating process. There is a separate type of sleep paralysis that does have demonic causes. So if he's experiencing something that has demonic ties to it, that is very different. And so that would be a whole different ball game there. And so the fact that he believes that it is demonic, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that it probably is, because most people can tell that. There are demonic oppressions that occur, and people can usually tell very quickly because they know. It's very intuitive. You know what's happening.
I've experienced it. Yeah.
Me too. Yes. Yeah. And many people have. So that's a very different thing. Now, if you're experiencing something like that, you're going to want to handle that very differently. And, definitely send me an email at Marilynn, MARILYNN, Hughes, HUGHES, at outofbodytravel.org. And we can try to take this apart a little bit more in depth so we can try to help you out more. But what you're going to want to be doing is looking more at the spiritual warfare aspect of it then. Because if you're just dealing with the normal sleep paralysis that comes with separating from the body, that's very different than a demonic oppression. Now, there is a book that I have in the Mystic Knowledge series. It's called Spiritual Warfare, Angels and Demons. And you can download that. Like, all my books are available for download for free. If you go to outofbodytravel.org and go to Out of Body Books, go to the Mystic Knowledge series and download that book. And there's also one called Ghosts and Lost Souls. Both of those books will help a lot in identifying what type of oppression you might be dealing with. And that's a good place for us to start. But I would really like you to email me so that we can try to identify it. And I would not encourage you in that particular instance to just follow through with it. I would go a completely different route. And I would also, when you are experiencing this, I would have you recite the Our Father prayer. And I would also have you do the first stanza repeatedly, which is, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That part, you do that repeatedly. That is one of the most powerful parts of the prayer. It is an exorcism prayer in the out-of-body travel state. Also, repeat over and over again, Christ crucified. Christ crucified. These are things that actually cause the skin of demons to burn. Those are things I would start immediately, but I would not be pushing forward if you're feeling that there is demonic oppression at all. I would absolutely be wanting to do a lot more discernment first to find out what's going on.
Well, MJ says, not anymore. I have learned and prayed, and it's not a bad thing anymore. Thank you. I pray smudge and have learned over time. Just said thank you again. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And I'm sure all of those things will help others who are listening as well.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing those details. Very helpful. Yeah.
Well, excellent. So then let's get back to the book, because you have a whole bunch of things you want to say about that. So you made mention that you had parallels within salvation history of ancient sacred texts throughout the world.
Yes.
Stage is yours.
Well, one of the things that when we talked about the ancient sacred texts that I was shown and taken through, and it's kind of one of those things where I think it'll be more powerful if you read through and go through the texts themselves. But what I discovered and was shown was that there were other texts that were not just from Catholicism and not just from Christianity, but went to ancient Buddhism and ancient Hinduism that showed that there were these parallel paths of salvation in Christ that I hadn't known about. And they were very extant and very unknown, but by most. Maybe some others have heard of these. Let me see if I marked this. So, ironically, what we find is in some of these ancient Buddhist texts, I don't know if you guys had heard of any of these things, but ironically, the Buddha had actually prophesied the coming of Christ.
Yes.
And these records are kept in one of these ancient Buddhist monasteries. And then there are also these other texts that go back to the Amida Buddha, wherein there is this salvation path that is laid out thousands of years before Christ that is identical to what Christ laid out when he came. And you have to read the texts to fully appreciate what it tells us, because what we find, and this is interesting when you compare it to what we find later when we enter into the tachyon fields, which again, remember, is pure adoration of God, is that these texts from ancient Hinduism and ancient Buddhism, which, you know, we have to remember how God was always trying to reach his people in whatever ways that he could. They're showing us that we can achieve this purification of our fetters and our flaws and our human weaknesses through the recitation of the holy name alone, through the simple love of God, the adoration of God. And what I found fascinating about this is that the simplicity of this path and the simplicity of it, and it's more than this, but I'm simplifying it because I have to.
Thank you.
It's like, all right.
But for those of you who are like me and really want to know the meat of it, read the book, because you can download it for free. And is that you literally are finding that the refinement of our soul is something that is not so hard won. It is something that the Lord has provided to us, and it was provided to us in a variety, a myriad of ways during the time of Christ, since the time of Christ, and before the time of Christ. And he has shown us that there is a simple way for us to connect, to engage into this purification process of the soul. And that is adoration of God. That there is, it sounds too simple to be true, doesn't it?
I think it depends, on the perspective. But
you see, what people are missing when they think it's too simple to be true, they're missing one thing. So I want you to go back to my F-16, okay? And you can take this F-16 and think of your car, okay? So, if you have your car and it's in park, it sits there, right? But if you put your car in drive, what does it do? Goes forward, right? So when a soul enters into adoration, it's kind of like, let's go with the Starship Enterprise, okay? I'm like all about examples today.
Warp speed,
it's working though.
When Jean-Luc Picard would say, engage, what was he doing? So when he said engage, they did go into warp speed usually, right? But what he's doing is he's putting the Starship Enterprise into drive, and it would start going forward. When we enter into adoration, we are engaging the gear. We are putting in the afterburners on the F-16. And what happens when you engage the afterburners on the F-16? You hear a lot of noise, and that thing goes. That's what happens in our soul,
right?
When we enter into a sincere and pure state of adoration. And we don't realize how fruitful and how meaningful and how accelerative that can be. Because what these texts, and I include these excerpts from these texts in here so you can see what I found and what I was shown in these monasteries in the stars. And I had these beautiful experiences where I was taken and I met with these Buddhist monks who have long deceased, who now reside over these ancient texts in these monasteries, in these stars. It's so cool. And they're letting me look at these texts, the originals that are kept, undefiled in the heavens, And what we find is that there is a path. There is a path that engages our soul into a state of purification through pure devotion. The irony is, in Hinduism, it's called no problem.
Sorry.
It's a pure devotional service is what it's called in Hinduism. In Catholicism, it's called adoration. And how many of us in Catholicism, are told how important it is to go to adoration? We don't realize how important it might really be. In Buddhism, the path is pure devotional service. But it's this recitation of the holy name. So why would that be so important, that we would see it being announced by these prophets, saints, mystics, and sages.
I was going to ask you that. Why are they so important?
Why? Well, let's ask this question, because these are being recorded. Let's ask this, and let's really analyze this, because we're seeing these being recorded in texts in countries where there's no chance that these people would have had contact with one another. These are eons apart in different parts of the world. You know what I mean? So we see that this is something that has been revealed through out-of-body experience, through deep mystical experience, to all of these mystics. And so there's something to it, right?
Yeah.
So why is it so important? It's because there is, remember how, what does it say in the book of Revelation?
Oh, you'll have to enlighten me on that.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And so the recitation of the holy name, the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. The recitation of the holy name has vibration and frequency. And that vibration and frequency, done with proper adoration and devotion, in and of itself, brings down this process of purification upon us. It's creating the circumstances for this to happen in an accelerated fashion. Do you see?
Right. Okay. So let's try to word this properly. To be able to achieve this, I would think you would pretty much have to be at complete peace with yourself. And I think it'd probably be advantageous to have a really strong core belief system.
I would say the opposite.
Really?
And let me tell you why.
Because you're talking about like beyond this level of where everybody can reach. It's almost like, taking some jet fuel and just keeping yourself up a little higher. Right? So, okay.
I would say it's the opposite. And this is why. Because to me, what it to me is like, it's telling us that God is providing us with this simplified way of accelerating the purification path despite how not at peace we might be with ourselves.
Right. Okay.
Because we are able to engage that path. We are able to engage that adoration, that devotion, regardless of our interior state. We are able to do that regardless of where we might be in that path. Right. It's a profound gift, because it's like, instead of asking us to take this path like the long road, it's saying, here, you just start here and you just enter into the vibration, and I'm going to give you the accelerated version. I'm going to move you from here to here, instead of you having to go step, 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 step. I'm going to just take you, I'm going to move you vibrationally through some of this. And maybe I'm not making myself as clear as I'd like.
I understand.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, because what we're trying to do, it's grace. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's grace. And so, like when you enter into confession and you're coming out of confession and you're receiving grace for that, and you know that you're going to, utilize that grace to help you to overcome whatever fetters, whatever vices, whatever things you're struggling with. And what this is telling us is that adoration itself is an accelerant.
Okay. 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 I'm learning. This is what we learn as much as the listeners
I'm
do.
taking notes.
Right.
I'm like going to be off the show and on that documentary right after.
Well, and I highly recommend that, because everything I'm telling you is a plus, a bonus to the documentary. The documentary is going to start you with all the other details that you want to take everything I'm telling you here and add it to it.
Okay. It's great because there's a lot of validation in there for me too, which is important for, I think, a lot of people when they go through experiences like that. Spiritual experiences can be so confusing.
Yeah,
and
they
scary.
can be. Yeah, they can be. They can be. And they can be confusing, and sometimes they're hard to discern. Sometimes they're hard to interpret, depending on what you're having. You know what I mean? And so, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And Michael, yeah, you're right. Adoration is the most humble gift to give to God.
Thank you for catch. Hasn't come up on my screen yet.
Yeah, that's okay, because my computer screen is like.
Well,
So,
no, but it came up as you were saying it. Mine, for some reason, is like a minute behind Michelle, which is, well, maybe it's because you're closer to New Orleans than I am.
I don't know, maybe.
Well, Michael, that's an excellent statement, because that is, he hit it on the head,
Right.
because it is when we engage in humility itself, that is when we touch the heart of God. That's when God is then able to touch us. And so when he says what he said, which is adoration is a humble act to God, that is exactly right.
Right.
That is when we are able to engage into the humility that actually opens that door. Because humility is the key for all of us. Humility before God. And there is such a majesty in our Creator. And in the tachyon fields, there is this majestic awe. There is just this majestic awe. And the honor and the level achieved by those masters is something so splendid to see, something so honorable to see, something so beautiful to witness. Just watching, just being so honored and humbled to watch and observe, and being allowed to watch them in their adoration of the great majesty of God is a teaching moment for us. And it was for me in a way. It humbles us in a way that is not, you can't put it in words. Because when you think of the tachyon fields, you can compare it a little bit to when you think of the children at Fatima or at Garabandal, and how they were just entranced, in awe, staring at our Blessed Mother. And this is similar, but even that is not quite the comparison of what you would see with the masters in awe of their God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so vibrational because everything there is frequency. So this world is not physical in the way that we are here, that this awe is different and beyond what we can experience here.
Mm-hmm.
But it is.
So, what do you make of? I mean, there are many mediums that claim to be able to connect with the ascended masters like on a regular basis. Do you think that it's easy for them to do this, or do they actually have to make their way over to the Tachyon field to be able to have any real experience with them? What do you say to people who say, "Oh, I talk to them all the time"?
Well,
I'm smiling for a reason. I'm just
I'm curious. I'm curious because, you know, I have met people that claim to be able to do this, and I don't know if we're talking two different sets of masters here, or if this is a real thing. Because I'm not one of those people that can do that, so I have to ask while we're on the topic.
well, the experiences that I have had, you know, when I meet a great master, or when I've met with Saint Michael, these are very holy and awe-inspiring moments, and they're not things that you just conjure up or that you're just allowed to do because you want to. These are things that are granted to you. So in my experience, it doesn't work that way. So I can't really speak for other people. I can only speak that my experience is such that when you're talking about that of the profoundly holy, it doesn't work that way. And so I would never, and I have talked to people who say those things, and it just doesn't feel authentic to me. I know that in my experience, when I am taken to see someone of such a stature, there is a certain protocol to it. And there is a great deal of, you know, it's not like a casual thing. It's very, very, and there's usually a very specific purpose to it as well. And of course, like I said, I can't speak for other people's experience because we all have different purposes
and
so,
different abilities. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but generally, from what you know, there are different hierarchies, different ways, and you know, there are boundaries between the worlds that are kept in play for a reason. And so there would be, it wouldn't be quite that simple, is what I would say.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I thought I'd ask because it's a thing apparently. So I you know.
Well, and if you're brought up Catholic, you're also brought up to feel and believe that they don't have free will, and if you need them, you can call on them, especially Michael. So that's a tough one. I know it's hard to understand, and then there's people who work with them as well. But I feel that those people were chosen by them. That's just my opinion. They're chosen by the arcs.
Absolutely prayed to them and all that and stuff like that, and they are absolutely there. And yes, there are many mysteries that none of us can explain in terms of many different kinds of gifts. but I think it is important for all of us to be discerning about that and to understand that these types of contacts are not given just haphazardly. So be discerning about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There are boundaries to the different realms, and there are, it's not just, and part of the reason for that too is that there are these vibrational differences between us and these different spheres. And what you'll experience is that when you try to enter into a sphere that is higher than your own vibrational capacity, you feel like you're being crushed because you can't go where you're not compatible. And so part of the reason it's not so simple is because you have to be trained and you have to undergo the vibrational raisings, the vibrational trainings and stuff so that you can go higher. But then you also go through a lot of rites of passage, initiations into the mysteries and things, because you have to be found, you're tried, you're tested, you know what I mean? In a lot of different ways.
It's not overnight the way we think, but you can call on them for help in my belief. But sorry.
No, sorry, you go ahead and finish.
No, I was just going to say the whole communication thing, I totally believe is a higher frequency. I agree with you in the training in the years. And you know, I have a deep connection with Archangel Michael and Padre Pio for me. And I always have for years, like my whole life, you know. And a lot of the Padre Pio is because of my mom's beliefs. It's not because of being Catholic. It's because he was actually, you know, he actually lived in her lifetime and died in her lifetime. So I heard all the stories, and my brother-in-law is from the town that, you know, Padre Pio was born and raised, and later where you can view him, believe it or not, in the church in San Giovanni di Rotondo. But I'm like just in awe of his, everything about him, you know.
Well, and one of the things about Padre Pio too is that when he accepted one soul, he accepted their whole family. So if he was attached to any member of your family, he accepted your whole family. And I feel that way about Padre Pio too. I love him.
Me too. I can't turn my laptop around. I have a huge photo of him actually.
I have a question.
Sorry, we're having a moment. Yeah,
that's okay. So I understand that we have to, I guess, sort of evolve to the point where we can go up to all these levels and you're tested. But is that not based on your soul in this lifetime, as you're being reminded on how to go through this process, this progression? Some souls are very old and they probably can do this with their eyes closed. I think we're limited by the physical more than anything. So what about those old souls? Like, do they just get tested with every lifetime, in your opinion? Or do they just get there and say, get out of my way, I know what I'm doing? It's like, up you go. Like, says, how would that work?
Well, it's
like being in soul school. You know,
can you imagine?
I know.
Well, the age of the soul doesn't necessarily, I mean, we can be old souls, but still, you know, I mean, a lot of us have been around a long time, but we just have a lot of karmic issues that we just keep recycling with.
So that would hinder you then from.
Yeah, you can be around a long time and just still be doing the same thing over and over again.
Narcissist. Sorry.
Purge that garbage then to be able to.
Yeah, basically, you know, again. I mean, there's a real simple way to quantify if you're incarnate on the earth. This is a mortal realm, which means you came in because you have karmic purification to undergo, which means we're all here for the same reason. So yes. So it's real simple. We're here. So that means we have karmic purification to undergo. And so we have soul purification to undergo in order to pass through this realm. And many of us, regardless of how many times we've been here, we're here because we haven't completed the tasks at hand. And that can have to do with vices. It can have to do with soul issues. It can have to do with other relationship issues that we have with other souls. It can have to do with issues that we have with things that God wishes us to complete or accomplish in a lifetime on earth. It can have to do with groupings of souls that we need to accomplish something with. It can have to do with service that we need to achieve. It can have to do with things that we agree to help other souls do, things like this. But it's all real simple. It comes down to purification.
Right.
So we incarnate here. It means that we need to undergo soul purification. It comes down to the vices and the virtues. And we have to start the process of examining the vices within ourselves and then comparing those to the virtues and start the rooting out. And for those who want to start the process, you know, the first book I recommend is The Mysteries of the Redemption, a treatise on out-of-body travel and mysticism. And it gets people going and understanding, how do you start this journey? How do you begin it and get it going and really get into the journey heavy duty? Because, you know, we can all get real caught up in, well, where am I on this? It's like, well, it's real simple. If you're incarnate here, this is what you're here to do. And then it's just a matter of figuring out the details of, okay, well, what is my particular thing that I need to purify? What are the things that I need to overcome? And then, you know, then we take a look at, okay, so we have these ancient sacred texts, and these are written by those souls that came and overcame and did finish. And these are the ones that show us the great jewels, the great gold that tells us, well, what are the secrets that are going to help us to finish here and get past this realm, this mortal realm, so that we can move on to the next path, the next step in our evolutionary path. So we can simplify it that way, you know.
You just answered MJ's question.
That's good. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we got that now.
Yeah, now this I understand, but why again? Why still? Right when you were explaining it, I'm like, I'm not ignoring you, MJ. Just going to get to it right now. That was perfect timing.
What was his question?
Why again? Why still? For the being, you know, reincarnated, constantly coming back, and you just explained it all.
Well, and you know, there's another thing I would recommend for those who are interested in understanding that, which is there was this amazing mystic. He lived from 1910 to 2002. His name was Francisco Candido Javier. And he wrote a series of, well, he wrote a bunch of books, like 400 books, but he wrote a series of books that were 12 of them that are in English now. He was a Brazilian mystic. And the first one is called Nosso Lar. And they put it into a film called Astral City. This is something you can watch. I think you can rent it or watch it on YouTube. It might be free on YouTube. I don't know for sure. But if not, you can rent it. And this is a beautiful explanation of our afterlife journey. But the 12 books, and it's, I think it's the Andre Luis series or something like this, but there's 12 volumes in it, and it explains beautifully by Francisco Candido Javier, which is Xavier. And Nosso Lar is Nosso and then LAR, separate word. If you're interested in understanding, you know, the reincarnation concepts and how and why we go back and forth, this is an excellent series of books explaining why we reincarnate, what we're doing, and what we need to do and why, and all these different little configurations. He did a brilliant job of doing that. He was a very unique mystic, very unique work in that I don't think I've seen any other mystic cover this subject so well. And so I would recommend that to people as well. But a lot of people really find the mysteries of the redemption is what really helps them pivot and get, right on that purification path to get started. And so I would recommend that too. But a lot of you are going to really find the film, How to Have an Out-of-Body Experience, really helpful. And you just go to outofbodytravel.org and go to our YouTube channel and you'll find it there. And it's, I think it's really going to help a lot of you get started. Absolutely. And there's a bunch of other films there too now that you can go from there to the grand phases of the soul, which will lay out the purification, discrimination, and discipline journey. And then the stairway from earth to heaven, which talks about these ancient sacred texts and the prophets, saints, mystics, and sages, and then at the feet of the masters and initiations into the mysteries. And then, we'll have the new ones coming too. And that'll get you all going. The Tao of Mysticism will be coming out in the next month or so. And that is going to be on how to become a deeper mystic. So that'll be our follow-up to how to have an out-of-body experience.
Okay.
So we have time for one more question.
Thank you. Yeah. Michael asked, he came in a little bit late. When you have an outer body experience, is there other beings prevalent? I didn't want to ignore it. Yeah.
Sure. Yes, there are. And not every single time. And, generally in your first experiences, there may or may not be. It just depends. Sometimes you might have a spiritual guide or an angelic being around, and sometimes you may be alone in the first, few experiences. But generally, as you progress, there will be many beings around, and you'll have a lot of spiritual teachers, you'll have angelic guardians, and you will find it will be very populated. And you'll find a lot about that in the Mysteries of the Redemption, what you can expect to find, which is a lot.
Sounds like it. Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
There is a lot too that you can expect for sure.
So we're getting near the end of the show. So this is the time where, I'm sure we could have put in a whole other hour, but tell everybody about your courses quickly, how to find you, the books, just promote.
Sure. Yeah. Outofbodytravel.org is the gateway to all of it. So head on over there. You can find Out of Body Books is where you can download all the free books. You can find all of our films. Go to the footer of the page, click on YouTube. You can go to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe, become a member. We also have the Udemy link is there, so you can find all our courses there. So click on that, which is our courses. And what else do we have there? We have lots of fun little things there. Lots of things in the footer of the page for everything you're looking for. So we have the courses, the films, the books, out-of-body books. We have lots of art and music, which will be out-of-body music and art. You can contact me. My email's in the footer. If you have questions about anything, Marilynn Hughes at outofbodytravel.org. I answer everything. Anybody, you got a question, email me. Also, yep, and we have a Q&A on the YouTube channel as well. So we have lots of questions and answers. People love that. We do live streams as well, so you can get in on that. And if you have questions, definitely send them to me because I'll put them up on our live Q&A on the channel. And we'll do live answers. So lots of fun things there, and love to hear from everyone because the more we hear from each other and the more we get to know each other, the more fun things we come up with to help each other.
Absolutely. Well
so
said.
it's fantastic to get, it's always great to meet and greet and get to know one another. There's always fruits that come from that, and I love it. So
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree, and it's just what keeps the world in a nice positive frequency, people.
Yes, raise that vibration.
That's right, positive vibes. Get up there a little bit faster. So, but thank you again for joining us. It's just always so informative. I just love to just hear you explain everything because it's just at a point where you don't even really have to ask a question because I think you cover it all.
And I love talking to you too. I love being
Thank
on with
you.
you guys. So thanks for having me again.
Thank you. Oh, it's a
Thank you
pleasure.
for being here and sharing with
It
us.
was our pleasure. So thank you. I have to sign off before I get my butt whooped. Not in a pleasant way either, I have a feeling. So, so thank you again. And we'll be in touch. And let me know when the alien book is done.
Oh, I will.
And it's
I will
redemption, 'cause
definitely.
that might be a little bit of a different twist.
It probably
So,
will be. I think we're going in a different direction. It'll be fun.
I know. I like it. I like it. Anything that the listeners could basically say, wow, I never thought about that. So we aim to please. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will be in touch, and you let me know when that's ready, and we'll do this
Okay.
again.
Awesome.
All right. Thank
Nice.
you.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marilyn. Take care.
You too.
Okay, guys, thank you. We've come to the end of another awesome segment. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Special guest Marilynn Hughes, producer Joe Montaldo. And please remember to stop by the International Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radar YouTube channels. Subscribe. Head on over to Facebook, Instagram. Find us on the Outer Realm. Show us a little bit of love. If you need to get a hold of us, please, the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. The Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Join us tomorrow evening as we welcome Cheryl and Linda Costa to the show for the very first time. We'll be discussing UAP, UFO disclosures and their analysis of sightings, et cetera, because there's a lot of et ceteras. So you will not want to miss that show. These ladies just pretty much are versed in everything on the topic. So have a wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow night.